Hi, everyone. Good morning. Well, good morning in Pacific Standard Time, anyways. I'm Linda Riley, and this is my soul sister, my partner in crime, Miss Betty Ann Golden. And this is our second podcast, Your Heart of Love. And the last time when we recorded our first one, Betty Ann and I were together physically. We were visiting each other at Betty Ann's home in Las Vegas. And this time for this recording, I'm back in Vancouver, British Columbia, and Betty Ann's in her home office in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is typically how we're going to be doing our podcast. Sometimes we plan to be together, but most times we'll be separate like this in our separate locations. So, yeah, just to recap, Your Heart of Love is something that Betty Ann and we decided to come together and create this podcast. We both felt that it was time for us to start speaking and having really good conversations about various topics relating to love. And so we just decided that we would get together and have these podcasts and invite you to join us. Our aim is to raise yours and as well as ours um, vibration of love, deepening into greater love and joy and prosperity and all those good things that are available to us. And that is our aim. And I think you agree with me, don't you, my soul sister?
I sure do. It's been a long time coming. Many people have told us both that we need to speak out. We have a lot of experience, not spring chickens, but I think physically and mentally we are.
I agree with you.
So, but we have a lot of experience especially between the two of us, and we've gone through everything that we'll be talking about. So it's not like we're talking about something that we don't know, and we're excited to share and hopefully spark something in someone to do the same or to better themselves. And we're not, at least I'm not a coach. I'm not a teacher. I feel that I like to share my experiences with others. I like to hear other experiences, and that's all we want to do. We want to see where this goes. And if you have a comment, please comment in the comment section, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And we are definitely recording all this because we're new to this, and until we feel comfortable, we'll go live eventually. But for right now, we are definitely recording, and we are excited to hopefully come into your homes and or wherever you're listening to this, and share with you some exciting news.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I speak for both of us when I say that we really envision building a community. We really like to build a community of support, having fun, raising our level of joy and happiness. Sure, we're going to talk about some, pretty serious topics at times, but we can still have fun along the way. And that's what we want to do. Not that we're making fun of or light of our experiences and maybe what you're going through and your experiences, but, we can on the other side be more lighthearted about it. Because, yeah, Betty Ann and I have been in the personal development space for a long time, right? Since our kids were little.
Yep.
When I first started reading about all these kinds of things and started realizing that, there might be a better way to live life, a happier way to live life. I think I shared with you all in the first podcast that I realized, probably in my 40s, close to 50, that I wasn't really as happy as I wanted to be for that stage of my life. I mean, sure, my kids, I had a lot of joy. They brought me a lot of joy. My family did, friends. We had lots of good times, all that kind of thing. But, inside, I don't know. I just wasn't that happy. And that's what I always wanted to be my whole life. Since I was a little kid, I wanted really just to be happy. And also, not just me be happy, but to help other people be happy as well. And for us to live good lives and, make the world a better place in whatever way, shape, or form we could personally do that sort of thing. So, I found myself just really not quite where I wanted to be myself and my level of happiness. And so, it took me on a journey, right? And maybe Betty Ann can relate to that with her experience too. And what I discovered was that I just really didn't really like love myself. I really didn't even know who I was. I was doing for everybody else, making everybody else happy, making sure their needs were met. But like as I said in the first podcast, like if I was to do a list of people that were in my life and that I was interacting with, I did things with, whatever I was doing for them, I wasn't even on the list. Like I didn't even make the list at all. I wasn't paying attention at all to my own self love and my own happiness on the inside.
Absolutely. You know, I I have I didn't know that. Um, I grew up in a very loving home. I was always happy as a child. Matter of fact, people used to tell me, why do you smile so much? And I go, I don't know, because I'm happy. But as you become a teenager and you become involved with you know what goes on as an adult, you start realizing that maybe um, you need to prove yourself to others. So you start doing things to make other people happy with you. At least that's what you think you're doing. And so you forget about who you are. I have a wonderful marriage. I mean, in respect, both Linda and I have led different lives, so you have a couple of different perspectives. Um, my my marriage, I'm still married to a wonderful man for 54 years this year, and we dated for 2.5 years before. So it started when I was like 14 and he was 16. So I can't say that I didn't enjoy or have fun or love, but what I did is I forgot that I should come first. I forgot that they're only going to be happy if I'm happy, including my kids or my grandkids. So when we're not happy, they're not happy, because the energy we put out is reflected on them, and they feel it more. Um, so, why do we want to really focus on the self love and the importance of self love on this call? Is because it really is. It helps with your mental state of mind. It helps with your relationships. It creates a better communication and relationship. And it also increases your resilience to come back from something drastic. And those things are very important. And I've realized it um, even more so with every year that goes by. And I in the beginning, I didn't understand that. And the last, I would say, started about 20, maybe 30 years ago. that I started becoming aware of um, a higher self, and that's myself, and that and it's taken me 25 years
I know. I know.
just to get to this point.
But it's okay, right? It's all right.
Yeah. So I believe that this, hopefully, we can help you. If anything, think that your life is a lot better.
Then you
Or
think it is?
yeah. So there's lots of books out there on self love. There's lots of audios. There's great meditations out there. But all we want to do is maybe we'll recommend some that we've used before, but we just want you to realize that it really is you, and it's your heart of what you believe is love. So, what is your core? And the core has to be you. Okay. That is truly your heart of love. So, if you want to give love, you need to have love for yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
In order to give love more fully, right? Because
yeah.
I mean, you and I did it for years. Could we say maybe on half a tank because we didn't really have that, you know,
Absolutely.
self love going on, that self image. And, I think it's important, don't you, Betty Ann, that we take a look at what we really mean by self love because society can deem self love. And I mean, this is what I believed for many years of my life was that to love yourself was actually very selfish. I
That
have,
I was just gonna say that.
yeah, that no, that's not, you don't focus on yourself and your own love. You focus on other people. I mean, we were taught to do that, our, especially I think as women, people for sure, but as women, that's what we do. We take
Yes.
care of everybody else. And, just like I did, I left myself off the list for years, right? Only
Yep.
to my detriment, only to
Yep.
my detriment. And it happened very, very slowly till I was out of gas, seriously out of gas because I was just doing for everyone else. And I just wasn't even looking at me and what actually my own personal needs were. I mean, part of my personal needs was to take care of my kids, to take care of my family,
Yep.
and I wouldn't change that for anything. But, to completely leave myself off the list. And, that was society at the time. And that was my family. And I want to say for sure that, when I do talk about the way I was brought up, the way I was programmed, that kind of thing, I do so with love because really our parents and people that were modeling for us, they really didn't know any, better themselves. They didn't know any other way. They were just, being unconscious about what they were doing. They thought they were doing the best that they possibly could. So
Yep.
in no way is it ever a criticism
No.
of, our upbringing and that kind of thing. But the reality is that really, I know in my case, and it seems like with yours, Betty Ann, that, we were taught to be these people that did everything on the outside for other people.
Absolutely. It was, and you know, it's the programming that we were taught from day one, and what we saw, what we hear, and that's what children, how they learn. They don't necessarily listen to what you say to them, but they see what you do. They see how you interact with others. They, you know, they see by your example. So that's how we learned as children. And no matter where you came from or how your background is, there's always certain things that you questioned and wondered why. At least I know I did. Not necessarily why my mom and dad did something like that or whatever, but it was just questioning different things all over the world, rules, regulations, um, restrictions. This was bad. That's okay, but this is bad. And it's, you realize that sometimes I look back, those things I thought were bad weren't necessarily bad. And that's like you said, you feel like you're being selfish if you take care of yourself first. But, as we learn on a plane, they say put your mask on first
Yeah.
before you do your child. And the biggest reason, there's two reasons why they tell you that. One, if you put it on first, now your child sees it's okay to put it on. Okay. And they won't be so afraid. But if you immediately put this thing on top of their face without you having yours on, then they're going to get scared. They don't know what it's all about. And the other thing is, of course, you need to breathe in order to save them. And so it's,
Yeah.
that's life, but we don't value sometimes our own thoughts, our own opinions. Maybe because of how maybe we were criticized when we were younger. Maybe we've come from, domineering people around us that didn't allow us or didn't recognize our thoughts and our value because they were so into themselves, but in a different way, not necessarily as a self-love. And that's where we have to learn the distinction between ego and self-love. So I'm realizing after many, many years that ego, you need ego, and we have ego for a purpose. And that is to take care of ourselves in self-defense, that to make sure that we are good. But ego, the bad ego, if you want to call it, the bad side of an ego is when you use it against someone. So I'm better than you, or I need to do better than you. I need to have more things than you. That is not what we want. That's not self-love. Self-love
No.
is I'm having these things because I am thoroughly enjoying it and I can share it with others, including love.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally true. Yeah. I totally agree with you on that. And, to hit upon again, uh, the more we love ourselves, the more we care about ourselves and we take time to nurture ourselves, the more we can give to others. That was when I first heard that concept. I mean, it was like, really? I mean, it was novel, like it was revolutionary for me to hear something like that because that's just not, was not in my reality at all.
No,
Yeah, at all. And my family, God bless them again, but we didn't talk about things either,
no,
right? I mean, we grew up in an era where, we were individualistic. We were supposed to be doing this on our own and toughening it out and, you know, just sink or swim sort of thing. It wasn't a cooperative approach. It was competitive, right? Like you were talking about, looking at how much other people have or, gaining more and, that kind of thing. And for oneself, but that is antagonistic to what we're talking about here when we talk about loving oneself,
right.
right?
Absolutely. And I believe that, coming with self-love, we have to watch out for expectations. Okay. Because we don't want to put expectations either on ourselves or others. Because when we feel that, oh, well, if you do this, this has to happen. No, because that's not necessarily maybe what God has in store for you, or the universe has in store for you, however you look at life. But your higher self knows the answers, has the program. It's whether or not you want to allow your higher self to take you down the right road. So, and it's going to lead you to where you are supposed to be. But sometimes our ego says, no, this is the way it needs to be, and I expect it to happen this way. So then our higher self goes, well, if you want to go down that road, you can go down that road, but you're going to have to learn because you're going to end up going my way anyway. So I think I've learned having expectations on outcomes is really, really something I can't do anymore. I can't expect because I love someone, they're going to love me back. I can't expect myself that if I take care of all the little things that I've learned in books or did my meditation and manifestations and stuff like that, that they're going to come out the way I totally feel they should.
Mm-hmm.
Because there might be something better. And we may not recognize the better until it finally comes true, you know? And I think that's the hardest part to learning about yourself, you know, and the love that you have for yourself, and it's not a matter of just taking care of your body. It's a matter of your mind, you know, who are you? And believing that it doesn't matter who you are you, and you are special. And that, you know, don't, like you said before, Linda, don't compare yourself to someone else.
Well, did we not also, I know speaking for myself again, but I think probably knowing you as I do and how you've been talking is, that the grass is always greener syndrome that I think a lot of us, had going on there, right? That we were comparing ourselves. And of course, media didn't help,
No,
obviously,
it still doesn't help.
yeah, well, yeah. Comparing ourselves to others
Yep,
and using their standards for our lives rather than our own standards.
absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know, so it's a journey to go within and to look within, because it was really interesting when I was just around the time that I met you and Bob. Betty Ann, was like, I was working at a self-development seminar company. The
yep,
company produced programs in the realm of self-improvement, and I met you guys. You guys were clients of mine, and we got together and collaborated on bringing these programs. They were very life-changing, these
yes,
programs, to your community, right? And I
absolutely.
remember at the time, around the time meeting you, maybe just before that, uh, being introduced to this concept of we live in two worlds, basically,
Yes,
right? We live in the outer world of, what's going on, our outcomes, things that go on outside of us, our relationships with people, our work, all of this stuff. But we also have an inner world.
yes,
There's the inner world of our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions. Right. And I remember thinking, I never thought about that before. I thought it was all happening out here. I didn't have no idea, right? That we have this inner world going on. So it was a real gift to learn about that, because I'd come to the point, in my life when I realized that I really wasn't as happy as I wanted to be. I wanted to learn. I had this desire to learn why. Like,
yeah,
why? Why wasn't I? I had everything on the outside,
yep,
I really did. I had everything. It was great. My relationships, my standard of living, my vocation, all that stuff was going really, really well. But yet, I just really wasn't quite happy. So I wanted to know why. And I became, because I had this desire to be happy and to help others be happy, to find out like what's going on and how can I fix this? What can I do? Right? Like, I got to do something different, obviously. I can't continue on, like you said in our first podcast. The definition of insanity is trying to get a different result, keeping doing the same thing over and over again. So obviously, something's got to give. So when I realized that I had this inner world, it was like, wow, yeah, I do. And, you know, I'd never explored it, but I knew, I intuited, I felt that there was something to this and that I needed to explore this world that I had inside. And that's where our self love exists. That's where our self image exists. And I, I realized too, I needed to have the courage to look inside of that inner world
Absolutely.
because you know I don't even know what's even in there. I felt like it was almost like I was sitting on Pandora's box, right? Like, what's going to come out? Oh my goodness. I was very fearful around it, but my desire to be happier was far greater. So I started to examine that inner world.
Yeah. And I think that's when we first start out examining who we are and how we can improve ourselves. Sometimes we're really critical and we think that's something we need to do. You don't need to you don't need to criticize yourself, and we need to forgive ourselves if we have done something that happened to be not like us, if you want to call it, or you react to something that you shouldn't have reacted to as much. um, so I think I'm learning that I need to forgive myself for any reactions that I maybe know I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. Um, and once you do, then it helps you to realize that we're not perfect. No one is perfect um, here on Earth. If you exist on Earth, you're not perfect.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here otherwise, right? If we were.
Well, you know what? I have to say, we are perfect souls. We are, or however you want to say, our higher selves are perfect, but our humanism is not. So, therefore, we tend to fall into, um, you know, uh, traps of our programming from the past, our fears. We allow our fears to intrude on us instead of saying, why am I afraid of anything? Because I was thinking one time, I used to be very, very, as I know I'm going off subject, but I used to be very, very, every so often I would break down in tears and cry to Bob because I was never afraid of dying, because I know I'm not going to feel it no matter how I end up dying. I'm gone, right? But I used to fear the unknown of after you die. And it was such a strong fear that I said to myself, once I'm realizing all these things, that who I really am in my higher self and who God is and the universe and how everything is starting to work, I have no control. So why do I fear? I can't change it. Ego protects fear if it can change the outcome. But if it's a fear that you cannot change the outcome on from yourself, there's no reason to fear, because it whatever it is, it's going to happen. So what am
Yeah.
I going to do? What am I going to do about it? I can't do anything about it. And and I say this because I've also learned through, and my mom was a very loving person, and she I think that's when I started becoming aware of self-love, because she didn't have self-love. She loved us kids and my dad more than herself. Okay. That as she got older and got a lot, became ill, she was not in that space of being comforted without any of us. She could not be in her own space and enjoy it. She never could. And so I used to tell her when she would complain and it was always a complaint about one of the kids, their life, what they're doing in their life. And she goes, "Oh, I'm just so afraid of this and this happening." And I used to go, "Mom, can you do anything about it? Can you change their outcome?" She goes, "No." And I go, "Then you can't be afraid of it. That's their life. That's their choice. And you need to allow them to experience it." And I go, "Please don't be afraid or don't worry and don't be anxious about it, because you can't do anything about it." Because she became very anxious on everything. So her stress level was just over the top. So we used to always say to Mom, "If you can't do it, Mom, if you can't change it, don't worry about it, because the worry is going to kill you."
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, that's what we were talking about earlier, living life on the outside, right?
Yep.
Not taking care of oneself on the inside, because think about our parents' generation, right?
Yep.
They even more programmed than we were
Oh, especially
about these
the
kinds of things.
depression and all that other stuff they had. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We were very fortunate living in, the times that we lived in, that information started to come out. People started to talk about these things
Yes.
and give us food for thought. Because that's the thing, that all of this information, working at this company that I worked at, I was blessed. I was fortunate to be exposed to so many different thought leaders on all kinds of aspects of self-improvement, that it was just a huge amount of food for thought, and
Yes.
sometimes overwhelming, because there was so much of it to sift through and to put through my own filters, because that's what I wanted to do. I just didn't want to believe something, carte blanche or at face value, without really like internalizing it, running it through my own filters, and wonder, does that make sense to me? Like, does that, you know,
Well, and that's very important, because even through our experiences, if we tell you guys something, that doesn't mean that's right for you.
exactly.
We all need to filter what we hear, no matter who we hear it from. I don't care if it's somebody you idolize, because that person is different than you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can't be afraid of it, but you need to, like you said, internalize it. And does it feel good to you? If it makes you afraid, then it's not good. I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
If they make you feel afraid and fearful, for whatever reason, that is not self-love. That is not something that you should be following through with
Yeah.
and believing.
Yeah.
Make sure it's something that just feels right for you.
Yeah, I really loved that the thought leader of this company that I worked for, he every time he spoke to a group of people, he basically said, "Don't believe a word that I say until you think about it yourself." And like,
Right.
do these concepts make sense to you? Right?
Right.
Like, don't believe it just because I say it and I'm on the stage. But again, Betty Ann, we lived in a time where, we were supposed to believe people in authority, right? There was this
Absolutely.
hierarchy,
Yeah.
right? That, these people that had all this knowledge, they were to impart it on us, for the most part, ignorant people that needed to learn these things, right?
Right.
And we were supposed to just believe and do so almost blindly, which, you know, it just that never sat right with me.
Nope.
Like never ever sat right with me. And was actually a source of conflict in my family, like at times, like with
Oh,
my dad, that I needed to respect authority just because they're authority, and elders just because they're your elders. It didn't matter whether what was coming out of their mouths was, questionable to say the least, right?
yeah. Or
But
they're,
you're just supposed to blindly believe it because these are the people that know better than you. Well, you know what? I've thrown and did throw that out the window a long time ago and became my own authority.
well, I really agree with you, Linda, totally, because I've had those experiences myself. I never was one to like rebel. I did in my mind, but I didn't do it outwardly, um, because I still had that upbringing, like you say, respect, you know. But I've realized in the last 25, 30 years that um, I don't even know what respect is anymore, because except respecting yourself, keeping yourself in balance, keeping yourself in that joyful feeling. That's the only thing that we're going to. And when we, and I have to say this, I also realize that we're not always going to be in that joyful place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are things that happen to us, thoughts that come into our head that shouldn't, or they do, and we have to say, okay, I'm recognizing you, but I'm not accepting you. I'm not accepting that point of view, and we need to let it go, forgive it if it's something that we need to forgive for ourselves or others, and realize that what makes me feel joyful. And when you learn to catch yourself being out of joy, and then think of something that brings you back into joy, the more we do that, the faster we become more of a joyful person on a, uh, let's say we'll have less bad days.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process for sure. Yeah, and I agree with you because I've gone through this process myself, continue to do it because there's always going to be thoughts. That's what the mind does. It thinks. That's its job, right? It thinks thoughts. And so there's always going to be these thoughts that that come to us. But to learn the process of, what to accept and what to allow to just, go out. And as you say, the more you do that, the more practiced you get at that, the
The
more
less
the
we,
happier your life is.
that's right. And the
Absolutely.
less those things come to you, because
Yeah, yeah,
you no longer
absolutely.
have that energy that attracts it. And then we also have, when people what we do is we listen to people, and you have, usually there's two sides to it. Well, my dad always said, he was talking about a marriage, okay, but it's in anything. There's always two. Everyone always says there's two sides to the story, his side, her side, but there really is three sides, just like a coin. There's the heads, the tails, his or hers, theirs or theirs, but the truth is in the center. It's the joint, the
The
thing that
edge. Yeah.
brings them together, and that center is a combination of both. It's that balance,
Yeah. The
so when
truth is
we,
somewhere in the middle, right? The
uh,
truth is somewhere in the middle.
right,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I think a lot of what we're talking about is around the subject of balance too, right?
yep,
In our lives, a balance in our lives that, years ago, I just didn't have that, especially in my inner world, you
nope,
know. And when
yeah,
I looked in, when I looked in, I was like, oh my goodness. And I started to, basically stalk myself and my thoughts and, you know, what I was thinking and what I believed, all of these things. It was like, oh, the
yeah,
amount of self judgment that I had was incredible. That I
oh,
think when I first went through the process was my biggest takeaway was, oh my goodness, the thoughts that you are thinking about yourself and maybe what you believe about yourself, like you would never say those things to other people. Like
I
you
know,
would never, ever have those thoughts about other people.
nope,
Maybe to some degree you'd have the same kinds of thoughts, but I realized that I was much harder on myself than I was on other people. And that is so far from self love
it is,
that, it's not even funny, right?
right. So I'm looking at the time, and I
Yeah.
know we don't want to go too far, too long, until we start getting some feedback and seeing what topics we want to talk about. So we're excited. Linda and I are very excited to hear what you have to say. Please make sure you make a comment. Um, Check the box. What does everybody say if they like it? And then subscribe to our Your Heart of Love channel, and
Yeah.
we'll see where this all goes. All right.
Yeah. And we'll continue our conversation in the next podcast because
Yes.
it's a huge topic of self love and a
It
very
truly is.
important one. It's the foundation of all of our love, our life, and needs to be addressed. And
Absolutely. And we want you all to think about loving yourself. Um, be the be the mom to you. You know,
yeah,
be that nurturer that does it for everyone else, and start taking time for yourself.
yeah, and one step at a time, right, Betty Ann? I mean, that's how we've done things too. One step at a time. First of all, awareness is, the biggest step that you become aware that
I
maybe
think
some
our
things need to
recording
change.
stopped somehow.
Mhm.
I'm gonna
Anyways, we will pick up next time.
Yes,
Wonderful to be with you, and we look forward to our next meeting.
yes.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, shit. Can you end the recording? Mine froze. Okay.
No, I don't have any.